Alrighty, it took me a minute there just to press record. I was off last week.
Mhm.
I try to go every week, but don't worry, guys. I got a second show coming up in 2 hours for a day off. It's pretty wild here, but I'm joined by Kareem Haywood. Is that how you say your name? I was kind of
Yes,
when I say names.
you said it correctly.
And we've conversed on Facebook quite a bit. I think I sent you a friend request. We were just talking before I pressed record and that sort of thing. And yeah, great to have you on. I love your Facebook posts. They give me insight and
Thank you.
all of that. And it's kind of a hard time for you right now with your New York Mets on a 11 game losing streak.
Yeah. Last night I was on another Zoom call with a couple of other Mets fans, and we were talking about the fact that, listen, they're playing the Twins, and look, it's 9 losses. Well, actually, 6 losses. And before they play the Twins, I told them I saw that they had the 3 games against the Dodgers and 3 against the Cubs. And I told them, oh, they could go 0-6, and lo and behold, they went 0-6. So I believe we're gonna end the skid either tonight or tomorrow.
Yeah, you like to think so. It's kind of a misnomer, right? Like you have Lindor, you have Soto, Bo Bichette just came from the Blue Jays, two
Yes.
outs away from winning a World Series. We won't really talk about that, but
Yeah.
uh, Bo Bichette, he was 1 for 14 in the opening weekend, and all of this is going on, and the Mets kind of want to be it, and it's always the Yankees. And we saw the Mets a few years ago, play the Dodgers in the playoffs. And what do you kind of contribute the downfall to the New York Mets?
That's a great question. I think for once, this is Stern's team now. Okay, last year he had Nimmo and Alonso, guys like that. Who again, he came in from Milwaukee, so these were not his guys. He's
Hmm.
finally able to create this team in his own image. And
Right.
I believe that guys are pressing. It's a new situation for many of them. Playing in New York is a lot different than playing in a lot of places across the country, for that matter. And they just are not clicking, I believe, as a team. I'm also concerned about the pitching staff. I'm concerned about Senga. The hitting is just not there. And you can say, yeah, every team goes through a slump during the season. That is true. But there's something about this team. When you score 19 runs in 11 games, you have problems that transcend um, just the pitching. And I just think the lineup is not clicking at this time, and guys are pressing. Yeah.
Yeah, most definitely right. And if you translate that to, I know we're going back from 2015, they had that amazing start to the season and rolled them to the World Series, eventually
Yep.
losing to the Royals in 5 games. But it's like, yeah, there's something amiss here. And again, you get the prize possession of Juan Soto. Do you think, and we saw the Blue Jays because I watch them every day.
Yeah.
We see the Addison Bargers, we see the Miles Straws, we see kind of the guys that aren't guys you knew in April, but you definitely know them in October.
Yeah.
And do you think there's just too much pressure on some of these guys of the Sotos and the Bichettes?
Yes, I do. There's been pressure on Soto since he came here. I mean, that ginormous contract he got. I don't. I mean, I'm glad that he got it, but you just wonder how much pressure he's under day to day to deal with that. Lindor is going to come around because Lindor to me is a future Hall of Famer. I know he's been struggling. I think Bichette is eventually going to hit. It's going to take some time. I'm concerned about Benj or Benji. I forget how you pronounce his name in center field. He's batting over about 150.
Hmm.
And there's some other guys who are just not hitting the way they should. And I just feel in due time they will hit. But my question is, are they going to hit before Memorial Day? Because if they are still slumping by Memorial Day, I don't want to say goodbye to the season because it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. But it's going to look pretty awful if they don't pick it up by Memorial Day.
I would tend to agree, and everybody says, oh, okay, it's early, right? But it's like even with the Jays, like they lose 2 games in Milwaukee at 2-1. Probably should have won one of those games, maybe both. And it's
Mm-hmm.
these things add up, and they say you can't necessarily win the World Series, but yeah, in in April, but you can definitely lose it. And
Yeah.
I think there's some great parallels between the Mets and the Blue Jays as of right
Yeah. And Hoffman's got to be driving you crazy, man.
now. Yes, he is. Unlike Rick Bonus, who
Yeah.
it's just yeah, it's just one of these things where you know what you like to believe in the guy, but like let's maybe you should go join Brendan Little. I'm not sure what's going on. I mean, even yesterday it's 5-2. He gets him on, and it's like okay, the wheels start. I had a guy texting me. I'm like. I just said few, and this morning he texts back, okay, I agreed. Okay.
Yeah, I think both of our teams are just not performing well now. Although I have more faith in the Blue Jays to pick it up than the Mets. I'm not again, I'm an optimist by nature, but I'm
Right.
also a realist. And I think the Mets have to start getting some wins here. Again, it's only 21 games in the season. There's over 140 games left. But the way they're playing listless baseball, fundamentally, it feels like they're back in early March the way they played fundamentally.
Hmm.
It's time to pick it up, and I think this homestand is a great time to do this.
Yeah. I mean, you look at the division, right? You got the Phillies, you got the Braves, um, even the Marlins as well, right? So,
Yeah.
I was down in Miami over a year ago. I saw them play. Yeah, it was opening weekend, but they got a
Hmm.
good young squad there, and,
Yeah.
and it's just yeah, yeah, you'd like to think that there's they got the shiny new toys, so to speak,
Yeah.
and kind of put it all together, and sometimes that just doesn't correlate. And with the Yankees, it always seems kind of a plug and play. You get
Yes.
Bellinger, you get. You even go way back, right? You got Bernie
Yep.
Williams, Tino Martinez,
Hmm. Hmm.
even Chuck Knobloch, even though he couldn't throw the first base.
Yeah, that's true. And I'll tell you this about the Yankees because I have a good friend of mine who's a diehard Yankee fan. The Yankees have the pitching; they just have to get it together. Cole will be back, but they have such great arms. Schlittler is going to be really really good. Their issue is always generating runs aside from home runs. They don't play the
Yes,
ball of say the 1990s when Bob Watson ran the team and Joe Torre was the manager,
right,
and they kind of brought a National League style over to the American League, and they were able to manufacture runs that way.
right.
But the Yankees are going to be fine. They're going to win their 90 plus. They'll be in the postseason without a doubt.
Yeah, maybe in the wild card or maybe the division, but
Yes.
my,
Yes.
my son, he was watching the highlights of last year's Canada Day game
Hmm.
when Springer hits the home run, and that
Yeah.
was that homestand where they had the seven where they swept the Yankees, went 7-0, but that's when
Yeah.
his downfall happened. Um,
Hmm.
what kind of keeps the leash on for Aaron Boone in New York?
That's a great question because again, I know Yankee fans, they want him gone. That's a great question. I don't even know if I have an answer to that, but I will say this. Okay. Be careful what you wish for because if they run Boone out of town, who are you going to replace him with? You
Right.
know? And I understand the fans' concern because sometimes Boone makes head scratching decisions. But I would only say that he is as good as the team he has. And as I said before, they are not good in terms of doing certain things. And those Achilles heels tend to come out in the postseason, not so much the regular season where they can beat the weaker teams and hit tons of home runs. But when the games get tighter
Yeah.
in October, and you have to find various ways to manufacture runs, steal a base, stuff of that nature. That's when their weaknesses really present themselves more. Yeah,
Yeah, and we saw that in the playoffs versus the Jays last year when
yeah,
Chisholm couldn't really execute the fundamentals.
yeah, yeah. Chisholm. I mean, he drives it crazy. He really does. He's a talented kid, but man, he can drive you nuts.
Right, and you compare that to last year's the postseason before when they played the Royals. He
Yes,
was kind of that star there. I mean, I think the
yes,
Royals should have beat them, but he was a determining factor. He had that key stolen base. I think it was in the game too,
yeah,
um, and that sort
hmm,
of thing, right? So,
yes.
yeah, the manufacturer.
Yeah,
uh,
yeah, and baseball in the fall, I like to say is a lot different than it is say now, April, May, June, because again, everything gets tighter. You're facing better pitching, and again, these fundamentals, taking the extra base, moving runners over, playing great defense, pitching, defense, timely hitting. That's what wins championships come October.
Most definitely, we've seen that over and over again. Whether it was the Springer home run in the seventh inning, or you know, I'll play the Dodgers side, the home run in
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
ninth.
and let me tell you, let me tell you, Steve, we had a lot of people here in New York who were rooting for the Blue Jays because they couldn't stand the Dodgers.
Well, yeah, okay. So, all right. Well, that's interesting. That's interesting to know because Brooklyn went to LA, right? So,
Yeah, we still have a lot of the old timers here are still sour about that. you know,
right.
uh,
That's kind of fascinating to me because I know when the Winnipeg Jets left to go to Phoenix, there was still that sentiment. I mean, because we didn't get an NHL team back, so
right.
um, but now you got I know in Brooklyn you go to a short drive, well, subway commute to Queens. You got the Mets, so
Yeah, exactly.
or
Uh,
whatever else.
yeah,
Transition a bit here, maybe
sure.
to NFL draft.
Mhm.
I don't follow the college ranks. I only, believe it or not, I only have so much time in my day. But
Yeah.
NFL draft happening in Pittsburgh. It'll get the minds off everybody that the Penguins are down 2-0 in their series of the Flyers.
yeah.
I love how they moved the draft around. Now I know it was in New York at Radio City, like for years and years, but
Yes.
I like the locations
Yes.
because it kind of shows off the city.
Yeah.
But dare I say, it's kind of a big draft. You got Vega, or you got the Raiders, the Jets, Cardinals, number
Mhm.
going 1, 2, 3. How do you kind of see the draft kind of playing out?
Yeah, and first and foremost, I also like the fact that the NFL moves the draft from city to city. I have my New York bias, of course, but also the NFL, again, you have all these various cities. Pittsburgh is a city with great history with regard to the NFL. I'm all for moving it around and just giving the draft a different venue so fans of other cities can enjoy it as well. With regard to the draft, it's a draft that has strengths, I believe, at the wide receiver position. Edge rushers and linebackers is a pretty strong area. Tackle is a pretty strong area. It's lots of good prospects in those at those positions. Um, I don't see a lot of strength, say, at the tight end position, for example. Running back, once you get past Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price, there's some value picks, but I think the running back situation could be stronger. Quarterbacks, we have a lot of quarterback prospects, but I see the majority of them as being mid-round prospects.
Hmm.
The Drew Allers, for example, Nussmeyer. So it has its strengths and weaknesses, but if you're looking for an edge rusher, linebacker, offensive tackle, even a wide receiver, and wide receivers can be picked in any round and turn out to be really good.
Hmm.
This is a draft for you.
I see. Yeah, because the wide receiver, it's kind of, that sexy pick, right? I think if the Bengals could do a redo,
Yeah.
they would have picked the offensive lineman that now that was now in Detroit.
Yes.
It's because it's at the hog lines ultimately, and maybe they would have picked Chase, but some of these
yeah.
things kind of head scratch yourself a bit,
Yeah.
because you need your offensive line, or what do you got? I mean, we saw the Chiefs
Mhm.
revamp their offensive line after Super Bowl 55.
Yes.
I know they don't get all the glory, but they get some.
Yeah. That's true.
So, how, do you see that as, there has been a bit of a transition in the NFL from offense to defense, where the defenses are catching up. Would you agree with that assessment?
I think to a certain extent, I think the NFL now is still very, very offensive. However,
Mhm.
if if you are a good edge rusher, like I mentioned, like this upcoming draft has guys like David Bailey, for example, from Texas Tech, guys of that nature, guys who can get to the quarterback. Defense, you have to have guys who can rush the quarterback. Shut down corners are very, very important. Versatile linebacker. So defense is still important. I will say this, similar to say baseball in this regard, although against apples and oranges because they're two different sports. You can put up a ton of points in the regular season, but when the postseason comes, defenses tighten up. We saw that with Seattle, although the Seahawks defense was great throughout the year, but you saw how they tightened up in the Super Bowl. And I know the Patriots were not a great team. They could not go vertically and a lot of issues there. But defense still wins championships. So you have to get that edge rusher and especially and the shutdown corners. Very, very important.
Yeah, the New York Jets, your neck of the woods there with
Mm-hmm.
Terrell Revis years ago, right? They called it the Revis Island,
Yes.
that sort of thing. And speaking of the Jets, going to
Sure.
number two, where do you kind of see them picking, and where are they kind of focusing in on?
Great question. I think the Jets are going to go defense. They lost a lot of key defensive players. During the season. They traded away a couple of guys. They got rid of Quinnen Williams, for example, got rid of some other defensive players.
Mhm.
I could see them taking a guy like, say, Arvell Reese from Ohio State, who we mentioned edge rushers and linebackers. He's someone that could fit. I understand that they told Bailey, I think it was them who told Bailey that they're not going to interview him. So it sounds like they have their minds made up. People say, hey, Kareem, if there's a player you think the Jets are going to pick, I'm going to go with Reese. I feel very strongly about him, but I will say the Jets will go defense in this draft, definitely.
Yeah, it definitely makes some sense there. I mean, Aaron Glenn was the defensive coordinator for the Lions coming over.
Yes.
You know what, the Jets can't be any worse.
no,
Are
no,
you a Jets fan or a Giants
no.
fan? I gotta
And
ask.
here's the strange thing. Great question, by the way. I am a life. This is going to be really strange. I am a lifelong fan of the New England Patriots. My favorite player growing up, yeah, was Steve Grogan. Some people who are old school will remember Steve Grogan, who was a quarterback from Kansas State, played 16 years with the Patriots, well before Brady and those guys. Steve Grogan was my guy. I always liked the Patriots of the early 80s with him and Stanley Morgan and Andre Tippett. So I'm a Patriot fan here in New York, despite being from New York.
Okay, so Super Bowl 42, where did you watch?
Well, me, I always watch these games. Listen, I always watch these games in the comfort of my own home. It's strange because I had this ritual where I would go over to my parents' house, just hang out there, and my mom, my late great mom, she and my dad would be, just hanging out watching the game. They didn't really know American football well because our origins are from Central America. But my
Mhm.
dad would ask me a bunch of questions about football and the rules, so I would explain it to him, and I would just be there like a madman talking to the TV, and my mom would just be sitting there, and she just found it hilarious. So yeah, always in the comfort of my own home.
You
yeah.
know,
So
there is something to be said about that. As the older I'm getting, I kind of like to be honed in with the people that share my blood.
yeah,
And I don't mean to be over the top with that. I genuinely
sure.
mean that, right? Because it is
Yeah,
it is something creating those memories and that sort of thing.
yeah,
It's a big deal. So that's good. I respect that.
yeah.
If you're somewhere else, again, Boston ain't that far away from
Nah,
from
not far.
good.
But people think it was crazy. In fact, I'll tell you a quick story. The
Mhm.
year that the Giants beat the New England and the New England was 17-0, I caught a lot of flack here in New York being a Patriots fan because like 90% of the city was so happy that the Giants beat them and the Giants won the Super Bowl. And I was in my misery. So I got a lot of grief during that time.
Were you worried on the Week 17 game when they played them?
When they play, yes. In fact, I'll tell you, I was concerned until later in that game when Randy Moss made a few big plays, But I'll tell you, I think the game that really had me very concerned was that AFC title game against San Diego, where San Diego almost beat them. I think it was like 21-16 or something like that, because I feel New England ran out of gas by that time and they were really struggling. In fact, I don't want to misquote Bill Belichick, but I think Bill Belichick, or maybe it wasn't Bill Belichick, who was one of the players, said it probably would have done us good if we had lost the game at some point during the year. And as odd as that sounds, there is some truth to that. There was some truth to that because maybe they would have been recalibrated and reset and then keep going. Yeah.
Well, that's exactly it. If I recall correctly, they almost lost to the Ravens on Monday Night Football.
Oh yes.
So there was that one.
Yeah.
Really
Yeah,
should
that
have,
was a nail biter. I
right?
remember that game.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes, yeah, if sometimes it is better to lose and then, yeah, as you say, recalibrate. Where do you kind of see the Patriots kind of going? I mean, there's
Mhm.
this is maybe a good transition.
Yeah,
And
it
we,
is a
uh, is there an elephant in the room? I don't know. There's so much going on, but
Mhm,
I saw the Patriots kind of had this surprise from two 4-12 seasons to go into the Super Bowl and
mhm.
gave it a good shot, good season,
They
right?
did. They did.
But
In fact, Steve, it's a great question about where do I see them going. I'll put it to you this way: they even shocked me. I figured they were going to win 7 games tops in the season, and then they just kept winning and winning and winning and winning. And look, they overachieved. A lot of credit to Mike Vrabel and the front office. They shouldn't have been. They shouldn't have been this far. So I did not expect them to beat Seattle in the Super Bowl. It would have been great. I would have been gloating for weeks, but it was. But I did not expect them to beat the Seahawks. And quite frankly, they played a lackluster game. May was in over his head. At the end, his numbers looked great, but a lot of those numbers were acquired basically when the game was already done. It was a fait accompli. Regarding the draft, New England has some areas that they need to work on. Okay. They still need to fortify the offensive line. They did a good job in bringing in some players. Morgan Moses is getting older. We have to figure out Will Campbell. Is he a right tackle? Is he a left tackle? So they need to fortify the offensive line. Two, the Patriots don't scare you vertically.
yeah,
They don't have any game breaking receivers on this roster. Some good receivers, but no game breakers. There's rumors about AJ Brown again. We'll see what happens. Um, but they also need to address that. So if it's buy trade and getting a Brown, okay. So they need to get a receiver. And I also feel that they need to strengthen the pass rush. One of the Achilles heels of New England last year was that pass rush. Chazon left after a good season. I was hoping they would resign him. But they need to get a defensive end or edge rusher to boost the pass rush against opposing teams. So that's where I see the Patriots going.
nice. I love it.
Mhm.
What do you kind of make of all this other noise, as I refer to the elephant in the room? I don't know. Maybe Vrabel was going for a counseling session with Diane Roos. I don't know after the Super Bowl. Maybe he needed that. This is again. There's the private life, right?
Yeah.
But you are in the public light, so
Yeah.
it is fine. This fine tension, and
Yes.
at the end of the day, I know what I think privately, but
Mhm.
is it really that big of a deal?
Here's the issue, Steve.
Hmm.
When you are a public person, you really don't have a private life.
No, you don't.
You know, Mike Vrabel is a public person, as is Diana Rossini. But what I find ironic in all of this is how quiet the league has been about this entire situation. You
Hmm.
know, word is that Rossini's husband hired a PI, a private investigator, to check her out and see what she was doing.
Right.
It's to me, it's a messy situation. Now there's going to be investigation into Rossini's say pick for coach of the year. And I'm of the opinion that regardless of how Rossini voted for coach of the year, Vrabel deserved it because the Patriots came out of nowhere to get to
100%.
the Super Bowl.
Yes.
I just think that it's an unfortunate situation, but I have noticed how quiet Goodell and the league is about this, which makes me wonder what exactly is going on here and why isn't the league issuing a statement in light of the fact that there have been other scandals with the league and the league has stepped up and said something.
Well, I mean, let's just be honest. I mean, we saw Michael Vick with the dog fighting. I mean, that's front and
Yes.
center. As you say, the other things, it's just. I turn on NFL Network and I'm just waiting to hear something, and they all know it, but they don't say it. And
Yes.
yeah, okay. And I don't know. There is something, about maybe protecting your own. I'm not sure, but Like, come on.
Yeah, yeah,
Really?
yeah.
Like, what are we talking about here? I mean, if they were the royal family, they'd be all over it.
It's true. It is very true. But that's the way the league is. The league is a very a protective league about certain issues. Um, it's just so unfortunate in so many ways. And
Hmm.
that's how I feel about it. But I have noticed the dead silence about a lot of this. Yeah.
Yes. Where I gotta ask, have you ever been to any Super Bowls, big games, that sort of thing? Maybe tell us a bit about that.
No, no, I've never been to. I had an invite to go to the Super Bowl the year the Steelers played the Cardinals, and Santonio Holmes made that big touchdown reception. But unfortunately, there were work related matters that got in the way. I've never been to any kind of huge games. I've been to a lot of games themselves, a lot of regular season games. I've been to a few postseason games, in excuse me, in Major League Baseball. But I have never been to like any huge Super Bowls at those events. Those events would probably overwhelm me just due to all of the people all around me, which would be interesting. Some people like those events. I am personally, I like to kind of sit back,
Right.
watch it on my TV in the comfort of my own home, and kind of pick apart the game as it happens.
Yeah, I hear you on that. I went down to Kansas City a few years ago to watch Chiefs and Chargers, and when you're sitting there, you're like, "There's 80,000 people in here. Like, this is
Wow.
insane, right?" And it's like you kind of pinch yourself a bit. You're like, "There's two times the city of Brandon, Manitoba in this stadium," and
Yeah.
it's just like it's a lot. Like I'm planning to take the family down there this fall for a game.
Hmm.
So we
Hmm.
can't wait for the schedule to come out. I think the kids want to go see the 49ers
Oh, great.
and with Brock Purdy, whatever. But yeah, there is something to be said. So I do respect that that
Yeah.
approach because
Yeah, yeah. In fact, I'll share a quick story with you. I
yeah,
think
yeah.
one of the wildest games that I ever attended in person was in 2006, game one of the NLCS, Mets and Cardinals. And obviously, being a Met fan, we were all, myself, my good friend, we were all in our Met hats and whatever. And this fan, he had a lot of nerve. He was a Cardinal fan. He had his Cardinal cap on, his Cardinal jersey on. So he's walking with his hot dogs or whatever in his little container or whatever. And the fans see him and they just start heckling him and booing him, cussing at him, all kinds of stuff. And he just looked at them with a smirk. And I just told myself, we better be careful. We better be careful egging this fan on. And look how that series turned out. It was
Yeah.
just terrible. Yeah. We should have been in the World Series that year, 2006. We should have been in
Well,
it, but the Cardinals had our number.
they definitely did. I mean, that was I think there was the big catch right in that one game.
Yes, yes.
The
And it's
wall.
and I just remember it as the series in which the count was full count and Beltran couldn't take the bat off his shoulder. I love
Mhm.
Carlos Beltran, but man, you gotta swing. you know, that's how I feel. Yeah.
Yeah, oh, yeah. Well, what are you looking at? What do you remember about the '86 World Series?
Oh, a lot. I was 13 years old at that time,
Okay.
and that was an amazing,
Mm.
amazing year. It was an amazing series. I mean, I look. I have to say that the games that stood out to me were the games in which Carter hit two home runs. Game six, of course. My now deceased brother Danny went to bed because he was so disgusted with the game. I stayed up until the bitter end. And when Wilson hit that dribbler that went through Buckner's legs, I started yelling at the top of my voice and I woke my brother up. And then Monday night was game seven. And that was a unique night here in New York and in the tri state area because the Giants were playing Washington on Monday Night Football. So a lot of people were alternating between the Monday Night Football game and game seven.
Yeah.
And my memories of game seven were just that towering home run that Darryl Strawberry hit. And of course, when Jesse Orosco struck out Marty Barrett to win, it was amazing for us long suffering Met fans. It was a great time, and I remember I should say I am gonna say this out loud. I remember playing hooky to go watch the parade in New York, and the school did not give us permission, but it was a once in a lifetime situation where hey, the Mets won. We
Yeah.
may never see this again, so let's do it. Yeah,
You got to do it, right?
yeah,
I've kind of experienced that in the last while. But again, I remember when the Bengals were in the Super Bowl, they were going to close the schools the next day.
yeah,
And that, well, they didn't land up winning Super Bowl 56.
yeah.
Uh, so translate that maybe to the Subway Series in 2000. Um, Roger Clemens thought it was the ball. Uh,
Yeah.
Terrible. Um, what was it like being in New York during that time?
Oh yeah, it was a civil war here in New York. It's either you're either a Yankee fan or a Met fan. There's no I'm sometimes a Yankee fan, sometimes I'm a Met fan. So it was pretty rough on my job. I remember talking to a guy who was a huge Yankee fan, and I mean he couldn't stop chirping and boasting about it after the Yankees beat the Mets in 5 games that year. It was pretty hostile between Yankee and Met fans, but they after game 1 when Benitez blew it, that set the tone for the series. I don't think the Mets ever recovered after game 1.
No, I mean they did have the game three victory, but it was just yeah, they couldn't quite get there, right? So yeah,
Yeah.
one of those things. But yeah,
Hmm.
it must be unique having that rivalry. I mean, when I was a kid, I'm like, okay, they must be a fair distance apart. It seems like a pretty quick subway ride.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's not that far from Queens to the Bronx. You can do it, but the fan bases are just so rabid. They are so rabid. I mean, I've had times where I'm just standing at a bus stop with a Met hat and a car where Yankee fans pass by, and they have something slick to say. So it's always been that way. You can't be a fan of both. It's one or the other. It's kind of like Ohio State and Michigan. Yeah, different states,
Right.
but you can't root for both. You're either a Buckeye or a Wolverine. That's just the way it goes.
Right. Definitely. We saw after 9/11 the first Mets game back. Piazza hits that home run, I believe. Giuliani is there.
Yes.
I gotta ask, were you at the game? Where did you see the game?
Yeah, I saw bits and pieces of the game because at that time I was working some really crazy hours. And if the, and I was here for 9/11.
Hmm.
I was here for the entire thing. It was terrible. I lost two people, unfortunately. One a high school classmate, one a junior high school classmate from 8th grade. And it was something that unified the city
Hmm.
of all things. I mean, at that time, yeah, people had their allegiances to the Mets or the Yankees, but just the tragedy of it all brought so many people together. I don't think I've ever seen the United States as unified as it was in light of what happened. It was such a terrible, terrible time, but yet we saw so much of the best of humanity. And that home run you mentioned really that galvanized so many people. In fact, Piazza hit it off a gentleman, Steve Carsey, who was pretty well known here in New York because he pitched for Christ the King High School, a high school
Hmm.
here in New York, in Queens, as I recall. And that home run just was such an emotional moment for so many people.
Yeah, definitely. As you're talking about it, I can picture it in my head, and yeah, as you say, the unifying, right? And we even look with the Jets and with the Giants as well.
Mhm.
We always remember the Giants playing the Monday night game right before 9/11, right, versus the
Right.
Broncos, and I think the Jets they played the Colts in week one. I forget who they played in the week two, but yeah, it was a very, as you say, scary time, but yet unifying time for the country and I would say for the world. But
Yes, absolutely. It's interesting you remember that Giants Broncos game because I remember being up that Monday night watching that game. And then I went to bed. And then Tuesday morning was a picture perfect, beautiful day in New York. And it was now my late great mom who told me, "Hey, this happened." I'm like, "What?" And she's like, turn on a TV, and I turned it on. I'm like, what? You know, so yeah, all of that is still vivid. Even almost 25 years later, September will mark 25 years. And it's amazing how it's still very, very clear in my mind.
Yeah, and and my wife and I we visited there in 2013, and we went to Ground Zero, and I remember I'm like, how the heck did planes get this low in here? And you kind of relive it in your head, and you can't even you can't even go there really. It's just because you're like,
Yes.
holy smokers, and then you see the names and everything else. I know it's a sports show, but I think it's all kind of connected. Well, it is connected, in my
Yeah.
opinion. It's my show.
Yeah, but you know something? Sports can really be a unifying factor in society, and sports really played a unifying factor in light of 9/11. It's like Yankee fans and Met fans put aside their differences, Jet fans, Giant fans put aside their differences, and we were all rooting on the same team. And you're right about the unifying factor that 9/11 and sports in relation to 9/11 played. Yeah, that's something that I take away from that period.
Yeah, mo most definitely, and it's as you say, like my word. I mean, yeah, for you to lose people in that. I mean, that's wow.
Yeah. Uh,
Thanks for sharing that.
oh, you're welcome. Yeah, yeah. A gentleman who was the starting point guard on my high school team. He was a senior the year I was a sophomore. He passed away again in the 9/11 tragedy. Sadly, his body has never been found.
Mm,
And I also lost an eighth grade a gentleman. Angelo was his name. We were in the same eighth grade class. I remember vivid memories of him. He was a big Miami Dolphins fan, and like Dan Marino, he and I talked a lot. We were pretty cordial, and something happened. We lost contact because after '86, summer of '86, he went to a different high school, and I went to a different high school, and that was it. Never heard from him until the tragedy, sadly.
mm, I
Yeah,
see. Crazy times, right? And
yeah,
again, with Peter Jennings too, he got on the news there. He's very calm, but
yes,
he broke down. He goes, my kids phoned me. I was very they're very shook. The late Aaron Brown from CNN, he was
yes,
on a building broadcasting, and um, yeah, you just you never can take anything for granted. I guess that's the uh,
yes,
case in point of it, right? But it's
exactly.
as we start talking, it's just it on it, as you say, it feels like yesterday in some ways.
Yes. It's still, yeah, it does feel like that. And as I said, everything is still so clear in my mind, even a quarter of a century later. Yeah.
Mhm. Where does Kareem see himself in 5 years from now? I know you do the Facebook posting, uh, but yeah, where do you see yourself?
That's a great question. I haven't even thought about it that much, but I appreciate it. If 5 years from now, I hope that I am still playing a huge role in the lives of my family members, specifically my nephew, who I referenced.
Mhm.
He will be a young adult by then. I hope that I am making a difference for the community that I serve in. God willing, I hope to be working and still healthy. Those are my main goals. Just to continue doing what I'm doing, and just to be a positive influence for a lot of people. Because I know that I did that for my parents when they were around. So that's my goal 5 years from now.
It sounds like your parents, your late brother, were very influential in your life.
Yes.
Maybe talk about that. I know you've talked about it, but do you want to just talk about it?
Sure, absolutely. Let me start with Danny first. Danny was quite a guy. He worked in a hospital, and he was such a light to so many people. He was a big, speaking of Jets fans, you couldn't find a bigger Jets fan around. He was a big Jets fan, a big Mets fan, a huge Knicks fan. So as I watched the Knicks in the playoffs and they gagged away the game last night, uh, I just had him in mind. I'm like, wow, what would Danny say?
Right.
Danny left us due to a heart attack in November, but he's
Mm,
always just a constant presence in my mind.
yeah.
His homegoing service was tremendous. So many people showed up from his high school days, college, graduate school, work. Uh, I think about him every day, and even when I watch the Jets, and I will wonder what he would do with the second pick in the draft too. He's not around to talk about that. But yeah, I think about him all the time. But he was a huge sports fan, and he had very pointed opinions. I know he would have a lot to say about the Mets because the Mets used to drive him crazy. In fact, last year when they blew it, I think they lost to Cincinnati, as I remember to end close the season. He and I were on the phone talking about, oh, there's the Mets again. Same old Mets, same old Mets. They'll never win. My parents, my late great parents, had a huge role in my life. They were originally from Panama, and
Mm.
they they came to the United States in the late 1960s. They came already with a love of sports. They loved baseball. My dad knew Hector Lopez, who played with the Yankees in the
Mm.
1960s with Mickey Mantle and those guys. They grew up in the same town. And so they instilled a love of baseball for us. They also followed the NBA a lot. They were both Knicks fans. Let's see, they weren't big American football fans because coming from Central America, when you say football, we're thinking soccer and not American football. So I used to teach my dad a lot of the rules of the NFL and football in general. My dad loved boxing. I mean, he could name boxers like off the top of my head. He had an encyclopedic knowledge of boxing. It was amazing. And when we were children, he would watch the fights that were on NBC or CBS back then because they were free
Hmm.
and they were on Saturday afternoons a lot. So I would be sitting in the bedroom with him watching the boxing matches, you know. But they were huge sports fans as well, and we would watch the NBA playoffs together. Over time, they didn't care too much about baseball because a lot of the baseball players they grew up with were like Rod Carew. They were big Rod Carew fans. Guys like Ben Ogilvy, players who came from Panama. They did like Mariano Rivera, despite him being a Yankee. Yeah, Mariano, we like Mariano in that regard. But they were just such great people who instilled such good values in my brothers and I. Great
That's
people.
that's awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah, you talk about Rivera there. He basically built his career on two pitches, the fastball and the cutter. Uh,
yeah. That's true. And if you remember, he initially started as a starting pitcher and he didn't do particularly well. We're going back to 95. And it's when he transitioned, became a
right,
reliever, and as you said, two pitches. And that's what kept him being so
right.
great.
And then we saw John Wetland in 96 and then
Yes.
transition from 98, 99, 2000. So
Yeah. That's right.
yeah, it's pretty wild, you know. Some of these things it just pops in your head. So I don't know.
Yes.
It's
Absolutely.
yeah, it's John Wetland, former Montreal Expo, by the way.
That's right. Man, I tell you something. As a baseball fan, I miss having the Expos in Montreal. No offense to the Washington Nationals.
Right.
But again, as a kid who watched baseball in the 80s, those Expo teams were so fun. Carter and Dawson and Raines and Steve
Yeah.
Rogers,
Grissom.
Jeff Reardon, Gullickson. Those guys were it was good teams.
Yeah, they were. I gotta ask, I know it's a hypothetical, but do you think the Expos would have won the World Series in '94 if it wasn't for the strike?
Yes, they were that good that year. And people forget. And I wish they had just played the season out because it would have been an interesting season. I think we could have had an interesting, say, Yankee Expo World Series. That would have been a lot of fun. That would have been a lot of fun.
It definitely would have been, and then it would have been we would have had the Jays 92, 93, Expos 94, so there would have been some above the
Yeah.
49th parallel.
Yeah, there you go. And a quick point, those Jays teams in 92, 93, they were very fun to watch. I have to tell you, I was rooting hard for Winfield to win a World Series, and I'm glad he won. I really am glad. But some really good Blue Jay teams back then in 92 and 93. Yeah.
So why were you cheering so hard for Winfield? Was because he hit a seagull, or
Oh yeah, I remember. Yeah, I remember watching that game on TV because it aired here on WPIX. That Seagull game. Yeah, I remember that game. But yeah, I was rooting hard because Steinbrenner was a villain to so many people, and it never sat well with me what he did with I'm hiring Howie Spirit to dig up dirt on him. So I really wanted him to win something. And plus he had adopted that moniker Mr. May, which Steinbrenner gave him. So I had rooted hard for him to win. And they had a lot of guys that I liked as players. Molitor, I always liked Paul Molitor. I liked Juan Guzman, who was a good pitcher. Always liked him. And they had a lot of really good players on those teams those 2 years, 92 and 93.
And then they got Ricky Henderson at the trade deadline in '93, the late Ricky Henderson.
Yep.
Uh,
Oh, Ricky. Yeah.
David Cohn. Um,
Yes.
so I mean, it's yeah, it's pretty wild stuff. And as a kid, I was like, okay, they'll always win the World Series. Well, again, we know that's not the case, but
Yep.
I don't think Cito Gaston gets enough credit
I agree.
for what he did. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah. I agree. It's almost like he's an afterthought in many ways. People don't mention him a lot, but I agree with you. He did an excellent job managing those teams. And again, winning back to back in any sport is unbelievably hard.
Yeah, most definitely. If we go back to World Series in '92, they lost Game 1 to Atlanta. Then it was the Ed Sprague home run in Game 2 that kept,
Yeah.
everybody can look it up, but you just kind of think back, you're like, whoa, whoa, right? So there was
Yeah.
no pitcher management.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true.
Right. So,
Yeah. And
yeah.
also, I also, as a Met fan, can't stand the Braves. So when the Braves lost, that was a good thing.
Yes. Yeah, they've been able to get two in the last 25,
That's true.
uh,
That's true.
but yeah, they could really never get over the hump, although they beat Cleveland in '95.
Yeah, and they were very lucky if it weren't for David Justice that year.
Yes,
Very
I
lucky.
right. I just saw the highlights and you think to yourself, holy smokes, how could they have? Yeah, very lucky, as you say. So,
Yeah.
oh, it's good. Holy smokes. This has been so good, Kareem. I appreciate you coming on, sharing your insights, sharing your story, the stuff with your family, stuff with 9/11, etc. Because it's part of your story.
Yes.
And I bring people on because
Mhm.
I don't know everything. I want to get people's perspectives on drafts and everything else. So this has been
Yeah,
awesome.
I appreciate it.
Anything else to say before we kind of sign off?
No, well, yeah, I should say, yeah, not no, but yes, yes, yes. First of all, it's my honor to be here. I appreciate you inviting me on, and I appreciate you reading my stuff. Like I said, you reached out to me, sent me a friend request, and I usually respond to people's friend requests. And I'll say this in brief. It's amazing how many people read my stuff and get joy from it, and they say, you write such interesting stuff, Steve. I tell you, colleagues, former work colleagues, my family members, classmates
Yeah.
from junior high and high school read my stuff. So it's very humbling. I'm so honored by it. And reach out to me whenever you want.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'll maybe get you on after, a Patriots game. Now I know where you stand and all that with all that fun stuff.
Sure.
And so, yeah, we can kind of go from there. But as I always
Mhm,
tell people, yeah, you can always come on again. And
mhm.
God bless. And
Yes.
have a great day in New York.
Okay. You too. Take care, Steve. It's been a
Take
joy.
care. Absolutely.
Okay.
All
Bye
right.
bye now.
Bye bye.